Welcome to the Rotting Eyes podcast, where we rot our eyes watching movies so you don't have to. Shut up. This is episode 0, recorded Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. I am Kat.
I'm Kajsa. And I'm Megan.
All right, and for this episode, we watched the classic 1980 comedy Airplane. It's directed by Jim Abrams and David and Jerry Zucker, starring Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, and Leslie Nielsen.
Just so in case you couldn't understand me while I was cracking up, my name is Kajsa.
Yes, and
your
name is below you right now.
Your name is should be
yes,
below
the
you,
pronunciation confuses some people, so I do have to clarify that sometimes.
For
Yeah,
audio
true.
listeners, it's in the show notes.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll have a pronunciation and everything.
Yeah.
All right. So, first of all, who has seen this movie?
I've seen it. We've all seen it.
Well, now we've all seen it.
Who's seen it? Who saw it beforehand?
I've seen it
had
previously.
Okay, because I hadn't seen it before.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hadn't.
Kat, can you go over your history with this movie?
My history with this movie is
Yeah.
I watched it once, like
Mhm.
10 years ago, and I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
That's
Did you
my
remember?
history.
Did you remember much of it?
No, actually.
Okay.
I remembered almost none of it. Because my memory's
So-
awful, and
all
it
right,
was
so it
10
was-
years ago.
It was basically like rewatching it again.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It was my first time seeing it also, and it was like, I don't know, and it was like I had been meaning to watch it for a long time, but it was like I'm like watching it. It was not what I was expecting it to be. I don't know if you guys had that same experience.
No. What were you expecting?
I don't know. I was expecting it to be more like I don't know, like not like. I don't know. I wasn't expecting it to be like a parody. You know what I mean? I felt like a lot of
Okay.
it was like sketch comedy, which wasn't bad. Like it was good. It was still a great like movie, but it wasn't like the comedy I was expecting it to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't have any expectation going into this. I just knew it was going to
Okay.
be a comedy. I didn't know anything about it. It's definitely one of those movies I'd heard of that people are like, oh, you have to watch Airplane. It's such a funny movie. And it had kind of been on my list of movies that I haven't seen that I should.
Right.
But, yeah, I didn't watch it until yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. It was like I thought it was a lot older than it actually was. Like I didn't know it came out in the 80s. I thought for some reason it was like came out in like the 60s or something, or just like it was, I thought it was a lot
Really?
older. Yeah, for some reason I don't know
think
why.
I knew it was 80s. Well, you know, we had shown it at our former place of employment before.
Yeah. We're not gonna name
so,
drop that here.
We're not giving too many personal details, but
Yes.
they did show it there.
If you
and I
accidentally say it, I'll
remembered-
bleep it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be so funny.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just say it so you can bleep it.
No.
But no.
That's so much work.
don't.
Please don't.
Kat will just cut out that audio if that happens. But yeah, they had shown it, and
Okay.
it was always very popular, but I'd always been working at those times, so
At that
I
time,
just
yeah.
never, got to go watch it. But
Right.
it's very popular. A lot of people
Yeah.
love this movie.
That's why I think that's why I thought it was a lot older, because it's like such a classic. So I assumed that it was older, but I guess it's not. But do you guys want to start going into like the comedy of it? Did you guys take notes on this movie?
Of course I did.
I took a few notes. One of my notes was I thought it felt a little gimmicky. In the sense that there's just so many jokes that are jam-packed into it.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of why I felt like it was a sketch comedy, like a skit. So, like, usually, like, I was expecting it to be more like a movie. Like, you know how, like, comedies have kind of a flow to it? This was
Right.
kind of, like, I felt like it was just, like a joke, one joke after another, which wasn't
Like
bad.
there wasn't
Like,
a lot of plot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it was just,
it-
like, one
it-
joke after another.
It
And I,
definitely
like,
took
it
me a
wasn't
bit to
bad, but
get
it was,
used to
like...
it. Sorry, we're talking
Yeah,
over
exactly.
each other right now.
That's fine.
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to that kind of format of just joke after joke after joke. I didn't immediately love it right away,
Yeah.
just because of that. Because I don't really watch a whole lot of these very slapsticky kind
Comedies.
of real fast-paced comedies where they're just jam-packed full of jokes. But
Right.
this one, I think it it didn't really start kind of hitting home and getting me to really like it until probably halfway through the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
I kind of like wasn't really sure where it was going. I think that's what it was. Like I didn't know what the plot was. I just knew they were on an airplane. So like when it started, I was like, I don't really know what's happening. I don't know where this is going. But like I think that's the point. But it was still great. I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was funny and I
And
it was
it was a lot more like raunchy than I thought it was gonna be, which was surprising.
Yeah, like there's this random like 2 seconds of just like tits,
boobs. Yeah. When everybody's freaking out and all of a sudden
right in front of you, and that happened, and I was like, what is happening? What is this movie? Why are there tits in front of my face? This is not conducive to the plot. I mean, nothing is conducive to the plot anyway. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's well aware that it doesn't make sense, and it takes that and runs with it.
Yeah, for sure. I like made a note, and I was like, there's a scene in the beginning where the pilot is like checking out a magazine rack, and it's all just naked women. It's all like Playboy like magazines, and I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually labeled whacking material.
Yeah. I remember noticing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. I was like, this is a lot more raunchy than I would expect from like an older movie, I guess. But I enjoyed it a lot. I love raunchy comedy, so.
Yeah. It was especially raunchy for movies in its day. Too.
Yeah, exactly.
But nowadays, I think it's fairly tame compared to a lot of things that have come
Pretty
out.
Standard.
But
I
think of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh no. I was just saying, like, a lot of parody movies tend to be very raunchy anyways. Like, if you think of, like, movies, like, that are, I mean, not, like, recent, but, like, Scary Movie and things like that were, like, parodies of scary movies. Like, those are supposed to be extremely raunchy. So I think that's just, like, a thing for parody movies anyways.
Parodies and, like, there's a trend of, like, those adult comedies, like Sausage Party and whatnot.
Let's not talk about Sausage Party.
I haven't actually watched Sausage Party. All I know is that it's raunchy and it's an adult comedy, and it's about grocery items. That's all.
Grocery items, hot dogs. That's what it's about.
One would say sausages.
Sausages, if you will say.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of good like random comedy. Like I wrote like. I don't know, there were, like, people would say things, they're like, oh, do you want, like, the smoking section or the not smoking section? He's like, smoking, and then he just gives her, like, she gives him, like, the smoking ticket.
Ticket.
Yeah.
I was like, that's funny. There was a lot of, like,
It definitely has those moments of subverting its expectations or your expectations. So, like, there's the thing where he has the drinking problem, and it's that he physically can't drink. He just dumps the liquid on himself. So it's like it leads you up to these jokes being like, oh yeah, smoking section or whatever, but it's not. Like, there's
like a lot of literal like a lot of literal stuff that happens, like I don't know, like the jokes are funny though. I enjoyed them. I
really loved the stuff with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know that was him.
Like I saw him come on the screen, and I'm like, "Oh, that's him. That's Kareem.
Yeah,
that's the guy.
That's him. I didn't know that was him. I knew who he was. I just didn't know what he looked like.
Yeah.
So like when the kid starts talking to him, he's like, "I know you," and I was like, wait."
Well, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is one of those people where it's like, if you know the Lakers, you know Kareem.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, that is true.
And especially the part where they like drag him out of the seat. Once he's passed out and he's like going over, and you just see his whole like basketball get up from the waist down.
Yeah. That was funny. Is there a reason? Do you guys know why he was in this movie? Where they just like, let's put him in there?
I think it was just like, let's put him in there.
Because
it's a good chance for a joke, and maybe like he knew somebody on the movie. I don't know the whole story, but that's just my guess.
Yeah. Right. But yeah. I thought a lot of like the not even just like the slapstick comedy, but like the actual like dialogue was funny. Like I know there's one joke that I already knew that was like where he's like on the plane, and then the lady is sitting next to him, and she's like, "Oh, are you nervous?" And he goes, "Yeah." He's like, and she's like, "First time?" He's like, "No, I've been nervous lots of times."
Yeah.
Like, like a lot of the dialogue humor was really funny.
Yeah, like they set it up so far ahead of time.
Yeah,
too, a lot of it.
Definitely.
Like I really like the ham on 5 hold the mayo.
There was the one that was funny that was like their names were like Clarence and Roger, and they were like trying to like
Victor,
yeah.
trying to take off, and they were like, wait a minute.
You had
What's the
Roger
Clarence?
over and what was it? And Clarence. Or
Clarence,
Clarence
Roger,
over.
and
It's our Victor.
Victor, yeah.
Victor.
That was funny.
Victor. Whichever orientation that goes, but yeah.
Yeah.
The physical comedy was great. Like the old lady hanging herself when he's going on about his relationship
I was like,
history.
holy shit.
And then
like,
there's
oh my
just this
God.
point later on where everything's going crazy and all of a sudden you see like this sword fight happening between two of the passengers.
I like how there was just it was just like random things happening. So like the scene where he's just like has the flashback, and then he's talking about being like in a bar in Vietnam like during the war, and all of a sudden you see like two Girl Scouts like fist fighting each other. Like,
I don't know that they were supposed to be Girl Scouts. I think they were like just military women.
No, I think they were Girl Scouts.
They were
like,
Girl Scouts.
100%
they were Girl Scouts.
They had pigtails, but they were like WWE like fighting each other.
Well, you
like,
could tell they were full-grown women then.
Oh yeah,
of course.
Sure.
That's part of the joke.
Like, it would just like it was like showing like all these men in this bar, and all of a sudden you see these two like Girl Scout women like fighting each other.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was just like some of the humor, like the humor was so like I don't know. It was really funny.
Yeah.
That was a gay bar, right? Like.
Was it?
No, I think it was a disco. That's another thing I noticed about this movie is that it makes fun of disco a lot.
Oh,
and
it sure does.
And that definitely makes fun coming out of the 70s because they probably filmed this in 79 and it was released in 80.
They were just like let's just make fun of every like 70s thing, like Jaws.
Yeah,
too,
Jaws.
Like, the
Saturday
Jaws
Night
intro.
Fever, which is another movie that we should watch with John Travolta. Yeah, and there's that random disco sequence, which I think is kind of essential to a lot of disco movies as well.
And I liked that there was kind of like weird, like I don't know if you call this like surrealism, but just like weird things that would happen, like so like just random scenes. So like there was like you guys remember the baggage claim scene?
Yes.
So like you know how like okay, so like for people who haven't seen Airplane, when like you go to get your baggage and the baggage comes out of the chute and it like goes around the thing,
and people are waiting for it.
Carousel.
And people wait for it. Yeah, the carousel. And then, but like in this scene, it just randomly starts showing like people falling out of it and like the suitcase waiting for the people. And I was like, this is too good. I was like, this is so
the
random.
Voiceover say it was like no frills like ticket or something like that. And it's like imagine if you could get a no frills ticket and just like spend $20 and you could fly in the cargo hold.
Oh my god, I would die. There'd be no.
Oh yeah, you'd be crushed.
You would be dead.
But I would get like those air traffic controller headphones because that's gonna be loud as shit and like down.
You would just
jacket,
be dead.
you're
Like your eardrums would be blown. Like you would just be crushed to death. But at least you paid $20.
Crushed.
Yeah.
You would just be dead.
Might come out with a few marks, but you'd be there.
Yeah.
Be $20.
Yeah, if you fly United, they'll just toss you. So.
Oh yeah.
I think my favorite gag was the dude in the taxi just waiting the entire time.
Yeah.
Like halfway through the movie.
Like $100 or something.
Yeah, because he
11,000, I think it was.
Oh my God.
Halfway through the movie.
Did that man ever leave?
Did you stick around for the end credit scene?
There's an end credit scene?
Yeah, there's an end credit scene where the guy is in the taxi. He's still waiting for him to come back, and he's like, okay, I'll give him 20 more minutes, but that's it.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'll give him another 20 minutes.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was a funny gag though, like when he goes in and then the driver walks out. Like, I don't know. Like that was funny.
Yeah.
I mean, he came back to set the meter.
The timer, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every religious person coming up and trying to give.
Oh my god, yeah.
give the captain something.
He starts like fighting. He's like it's Scientology, and then he just flips him, and I was like, that is so funny. That's me.
He's just like beating up all of the religious advertisers, whatever you call it, recruiters.
Yeah, recruiters. They're like
from every religion you could possibly imagine.
I love the scene when he's like fighting everybody, and the guy goes Scientology because he's like flipping him.
Yeah,
so funny. That was good. Yeah, a lot of the humor was very like there was some scenes I was kind of like I don't know how I feel about this. Like the scene when the lady is like the flight attendant is singing to the girl who's like she has to like she has to get the heart transplant. She's like there to get a heart transplant to like fly to Chicago or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, let me play this song for her on the guitar." And she's playing and she like knocks out her IV and this girl's like dying. And I was like, "Oh no, somebody help her." Did
or
she
like
die?
right
Was she
before
good?
that when she's like just dragging the guitar along the heads.
Oh, that was funny. I
of
thought
all
that
the
was funny.
passengers.
Yeah, she's like she just has it and it just hits everybody's head as she's walking.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was one of the bits that I really really liked. I think that was definitely a dig at older movies, like in like, you know, 50s, 60s, where randomly you just have this song and dance.
Yeah, that is true.
Maybe more 60s than 50s, because 50s, you know, you had the movie musicals that were just really popular.
Yeah. Do you think this movie, like this type of comedy, would work now? Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if a movie like this was made like right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's influenced so many physical comedies that have come after that, and slapstick comedies and all the irreverent comedies that are out nowadays. I think it's, you know, just kind of become this icon in comedy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
its continued popularity, I think, is an indicator that people still think this kind of thing is really funny.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of things that I don't think hold up that are
Yeah.
like dated
That's what
and
I was
definitely wouldn't fly today.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why
Wouldn't
I
fly.
asked wouldn't fly. Got him.
Yeah, that was not an intentional pun.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because I feel like there was some stuff that happened in the movie that I think people would be like if that happened, if it's like somebody did that now, they'd be like, oh, that's kind of dated, you know. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were a lot of things where I went, that's a little racist.
yeah,
Yeah.
the whole jive scene. I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this.
Or
and then
even
the-
just like
beating up
a
the old
little
lady.
sexist.
Yeah, like beating up the lady, like all of them. in line
Or
to
the
beat up
ladies
that
who's
lady.
like, I'm gonna die, but I don't have a husband.
Oh, okay, I thought that was funny.
That was funny. That was funny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm gonna die, but at least I have a
At
husband.
least I'm gonna die, but at least I have a husband. I like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, have you have either? I mean, I'm assuming, but have you guys seen the sequel?
I have
No,
not.
I have not.
Okay, I have not either, but I've heard it's not great. And I heard that Logan Paul made a sequel of like he tried to make his own airplane or something. But
Well,
like
we don't have to talk
we
about
just like
Logan
not
Paul.
discuss that man,
we don't
that
have to talk
child,
about
that
it.
man
Yeah.
child.
We don't have to talk about it.
Please.
No controversy.
Yeah, yeah. We're not a
No,
YouTube
none of him
gossip
or any of his family.
Yeah, no, none of them. Please, no.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot of like movies that have tried to replicate Airplane, but just have not done
Yeah.
it super
Yeah.
successfully. I wonder what makes like Airplane so, I don't know. How, like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like so iconic and so
Well, you know, I think it's the fact that it's super raunchy, especially for its day, and also that it doesn't care, right?
yeah.
It
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
It's
They were like whatever we think it's just going to go into this movie.
yeah,
Like,
it
yeah.
in a way it was rebelling against existing comedy and existing formats, and it just kind of did its own thing. It ran with
Yeah.
it, and people
I
attached to that.
agree. I think that's why, like, maybe it wouldn't have worked today, because like there was just so many things in this movie that they were like, this is like, we're putting this in and this is gonna be kind of controversial, but we don't care. Like, we're just gonna throw
Yeah.
this in because whatever, you know. So
Yeah.
I think maybe that's what made it so good.
What?
I just dropped my microphone. Sorry, guys.
Oh, Megan. Megan, we're a
I'm so
professional
sorry.
podcast
We are
here.
professional podcasts. I'm so sorry.
You got.
Can't wait to see that in the editing.
I think
Can't
we
wait for
should
the whole
leave
world
that
to
in
see it when
there.
we put this on YouTube.
Oh, it's gonna stay in.
Oh, yes.
I just want to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Oh,
god.
we
you
can't
know-
see each other.
Oh yeah, we can't see each other right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Kat will see this when she edits it. Poor Kat. She's gonna have to watch this like 3 times.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kat.
We love you. I'll make you cookies.
Okay. I'll accept cookies as payment.
Yeah. I make these really good brown butter chocolate chip cookies.
Kajsa's very good at cooking.
I am.
Baking.
I am.
She's very good at
I'm not an expert. I don't make any claim to be a professional pastry chef, but I do very much enjoy baking.
Oh my god, wait. I was just looking at my notes. One of my favorite lines is like the guy when he's like the main character, he's like, "Oh, well, Shirley da 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 da," and then the guy's like, "Stop
Shirley,
calling
you
me
can't be
Shirley."
serious.
Yeah, Shirley.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
I love
Stop
that.
calling me Shirley.
And the way what's the actor's name? I can't remember. Who plays
Leslie
the
Nielsen?
doctor? Leslie Nielsen. That's right.
The main character.
Just the way he plays
doctor.
the doctor is just, it's golden.
Wait, who's the doctor?
He's
Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen.
He's the
Okay.
he's the one who he's always
that
the
guy.
level
Yeah, right.
head, which
Right,
is
right.
which is another kind of a play on older movies where you always have this one guy who's the responsible one. He's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hero.
and they're always a doctor or a scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
yeah.
true. Yeah.
And just the way he plays it, so straightforward, so
the
straight
deadpan.
edged.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I very much enjoy it.
I was reading this thing that was like somebody was like, no offense to Robert Hayes who plays the main character, but this movie would have been great with Harrison Ford as the main character.
I could see that, but you
I
know,
could see it
Robert
too.
Hayes, there's just something about it. Him and what's her name? I have it in my notes.
Julie Haggart.
Yeah,
Haggerty.
Ted and
Yeah.
Elaine.
Yeah.
You know, right off the bat, they have like a certain kind of like chemistry. Like you can't help but root for them as a couple,
Yeah.
and it's just like, go get her, Ted. And it's got that romantic theme leitmotif, which is very
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet-esque, and it's
I love.
just
Yeah.
you
I
just
love
want
the
them to be
scene
together.
when they're like on the beach, and it's obviously like a throwback to like romance movies where they're like
Yeah.
running around on the beach and they're like
Uh-huh.
falling on each other and making out like as the waves are like
Yeah.
coming in, and then like it zooms out and they're like making out while the waves are hitting, and there's all these like dead fish next to them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just like random things. I'm like they were like
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just funny.
Yeah, so let's talk about the soundtrack a little bit.
Ooh.
Since we mentioned the use of leitmotifs, where you have the very romantic theme that plays throughout anytime you have those two on screen, and you also have like the dangery kind of leitmotif that plays anytime something dangerous happens.
Yeah.
And then you have that main theme that just kind of plays throughout.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely mocking or even just kind of playing up
It's
existing.
parodying, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
existing
just
use
it's super
of-
dramatic.
of-
I remember like
yeah.
the scene when he like the scene in the airport like in the very beginning when he's like running up to her and he's like wait like and she's like I have to start my life, and then like immediately as they start talking the music like this romantic like dramatic music just immediately starts playing, and I was like
Yeah.
wow. They're really going for it.
Yeah, the soundtrack is definitely, I think, a joke in and of itself. It's another
Yeah.
one of those jokes that's added in and packed in there.
I think
Yeah, for
everything
sure.
about the movie is a joke.
It's a joke. Yeah,
It
they were just like,
is.
we don't
It
give a shit.
is.
We're just
Yeah.
there was literally that's why I kind of felt like I was really surprised when I was watching it because I thought it was gonna be a very formal like comedy movie, like how movies were, and this was just straight up just like sketch comedy, just like
Yeah.
one,
An irreverent
one skit after
sketch
another.
comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it was great. It's like you know like how SNL was. Like if SNL was just like one long thing, it would just be that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not like one serious bone in this movie's body. Like right off the bat, the opening scene is the Jaws parody.
Yeah, and I was like, I was like, all right. This
And
is
then
really
you've
sets
got the
the-
plane
sets
crashing
the
through the
tone.
window, and then you've got the overhead speakers, and you've got just like one after the other. There's not
Yeah.
a moment of seriousness throughout the entire plot.
And it's one
Listen,
of those
Betty,
things,
don't start with your white zone shit again.
She's like, you just want me to get an abortion. And I was like, what is going on?
Like, what is happening between these two
Yeah.
commentators?
But I think it's one of those things that like if you rewatch it, I feel like there's so much more you could get from it too. Like I know people who say that they watch every time they watch it, they get something new from it. Yeah. So I think it's one of those things that's like the first time you watch it, you're kind of like this is not what I was expecting it to be. But like I feel like it's one of those things that like really grows on you the more you would watch it, and that's probably why it's become like so iconic.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I think that's one of the benefits of having a movie that has so much stuff is that there's so much room to notice things as you watch it and rewatch
exactly. That's why movies should always be watched a second time, you guys. To all the people who only watch movies once, sorry to you.
Yeah. There's a lot of movies I've only watched once, but that's usually an instance where it's like, okay, well, I don't feel attached enough to this movie. Or I didn't enjoy it enough to watch it multiple times, but
yeah, just like average movies where they just come out and you're like, oh, that was fun once. But there's definitely a ton of movies that like deserve to be watched more than one time.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Movies, I always find movies are better the second and third time I watch them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of movies where say you're on the fence about, and you watch it a second time, you just enjoy it so much more. Because you're able to approach it from a different perspective and you can think about things a little bit differently.
Exactly. Right. And it's kind of like a lot, especially movies where like you don't really know where it's going. Like you already know where it's going, so it allows you to pay attention more to details that people add in, you know. So yeah, I'm definitely going to watch this a second time and see if I'm probably going to like it a lot more the second time.
Yeah, I rented it. I got like 48 hours to watch it, so I could watch it again tonight, but yeah.
Right. You guys, we should watch the sequel.
We should. Where can you watch it? We might have to rent that again, but
we'd have to watch. I think we'd have to rent it. We'll just make fun of it, you guys.
Yeah.
Whatever the second movie's. I don't even know what would the second movie even be about?
I honestly don't know.
What was the first movie about?
What was the first movie about? You're right.
Well, the first movie is about what's his name, Ted landing the plane.
Is he back in the second movie?
I don't think so. I don't think it's any of the original cast.
No,
that's a problem.
No, it is.
Okay.
Oh, it is?
I'm gonna read you guys the description for Airplane 2, the sequel.
Oh boy.
Though haunted by combat memories, heroic pilot Ted Stryker agrees to return to the cockpit to man the controls of Mayflower 1, America's first commercial spacecraft. Oh my God, they're in space?
Yo.
Wait a minute, we have to watch this.
You can only go up.
Yeah, wait, hold on. But as soon as Mayflower 1 lifts off, an electrical malfunction sends the ship veering off course. A shaken Stryker struggles to guide the shuttle through a treacherous asteroid belt, tame its failing computer systems, and stop the disgruntled Joe Salucci, played by Sonny Bono.
Sonny Bono!
From detonating a deadly bomb on board. Okay, you know what? I think we should watch this. It's
I think that sounds
we can watch the
good.
former mayor of Palm Springs.
That would be fun. Oh my God, space!
Yeah.
I'm always into space movies.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to do like a special bonus episode one of these days, and we can talk. about that.
For sure. A small bonus episode.
Do a riff track style.
Yeah.
We'll just be in the middle of talking.
When we were talking about landing the plane, it made me think of Autopilot.
Right.
The automatic pilot, the blow up.
Oh, the blow up doll.
And I was not expecting that at all.
That was funny. Like he was like, they were like, it's deflating.
You gotta press the automatic pilot, and then all of a sudden, like Otto just kind of blows up.
Yeah, I like the ending with like the credit, which is like Otto as himself, and I was like, amazing.
Yeah. And the bit where she has to like blow him up, but it looks like she's giving him a blowjob.
Yeah, she's giving a blowjob, and he walks in, and he's like. And he walks out.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. And then they're smoking cigarettes after.
Yeah, after. Oh my God, right after. And they're both like smoking cigarettes. I was like, I'm
so good. So good.
And then he had a girlfriend at the end
of
the movie.
Who looked like a stewardess.
Happy ending for everybody.
Okay, but the thing was funny because I remember seeing his face and he had like this weird flap over his eye. And I was like, what is that weird flap? And then the girlfriend pops up and he winks. And I was like, oh, that's what it was. That was funny.
It's his eyelid. That's the weird flap over his eye.
They gave him an eyelid because they were like, we have to make him blink. But yeah, the special effects where like you know how like when you watch old movies and they're making things float or whatever, and you can very clearly see that there's a string holding them
the
up.
wires.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Another kind of telltale thing is you always see like the pants riding up because they've got the harness.
Yeah. I love the scene when they're like dancing, the disco scene, and she's like, you know how it's usually the man spins the woman, but it's like her spinning him.
Yeah.
And he's very obviously like on some kind of like rig. Like, I don't know, it was really funny.
Yeah. Or when he's like kind of like bent down on the ground and he has his knees bent and he's like kicking.
He's doing the Cossack dance.
Yeah, the Cossack dance. That was hilarious.
Yeah, but it's funny because there's no real plot in this movie, so like we can't really talk about the story.
Yeah, there's
no
not
plot.
really a way to discuss the linear plot.
Okay, so for people who haven't seen this movie, this is what the movie is about.
Okay.
As we get like into the 30-minute mark or whatever.
Plot analysis.
This is we already discussed Airplane 2, so now we're going to discuss Airplane 1's plot.
We've already discussed a sequel we haven't even watched.
Yeah, so Airplane, the 1980s movie that we have been talking about for the past like 30 minutes is about this guy who's like this I think he was like a military, he was like a pilot or something. And
he
then
fought in the war.
Yeah, and he's trying to get his ex-girlfriend back, who's a flight attendant. So he chases after her and decides, hey, I'm just going to go on this flight to Chicago and try to win her back. But when they're on this flight, there's like, what do they eat? Fish? There's like a serving of fish.
Or steak.
And
Yeah.
everybody, yeah, exactly. So everybody, like a lot of people end up getting food poisoning. So like pretty much everybody in the cockpit, all the pilots, like everybody gets food poisoning. So he becomes the only person that can like has enough experience to actually try and land this plane. So I guess that's the plot of the movie, is him trying to land the plane.
Yeah.
But he has trauma
but-
from the war.
But he has
so.
trauma from the war, so
Yeah.
he has a lot of self-confidence issues.
Yeah.
But that plot literally means nothing.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't. The plot literally has nothing to.
I
the
guess
movie
he only has experience flying single engine planes, and this is a quad engine plane. So, which is apparently very different
Yeah,
flying
apparently.
style, and so he's shook up from the war, and then he doesn't know how to fly this type of plane. So you can imagine he's a wreck once they put him up there. And then he's got Elaine as the stewardess who is brought up to be a co-pilot, and she obviously doesn't know anything about flying. So you just kind of have this messy duo in charge of all these people.
Yeah. You guys remember the scene when he's like trying to land the plane? That gag where he's just sweating, and it's just like you can tell that somebody's just like his head is like, so like you can't, his
It's
head
just,
is
like,
like right where the
pouring
screen
down.
is. Somebody's just pouring like water on his head because he's like, it's a close up of his face and he's just like pouring sweat on his face.
Yeah.
I love that. It's a great skit. That's a great like gag, I think. Have you guys seen that gag? Have you guys seen that thing of Jordan Peele? Like, you know how they did Key and Peele? He had this one like thing of like him. There's like this one gif of him of just like, it's like the same gag where it's him just like pouring sweat on his face.
Yes.
I love that. It's amazing.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Classic gag.
Yeah.
So you guys like the movie?
Yes,
I did.
I enjoyed the
it.
movie.
What?
I think my favorite kind of, at least parts of the movie were the control room in Chicago as he's trying to land the plane, and they're like trying to communicate with him
Yeah.
and talk him up, and basically any time they showed that control room, I really enjoyed.
Yeah. He's like, this is a bad time to have stopped doing cocaine or whatever.
Yes.
He like just snorts a thing of cocaine and like jumps out of the window.
The old lady on the plane.
And
He's like, oh, would you like a shot of whiskey? And she's like, no. And then she turns around and snorts cocaine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Ugh.
I like the gag where he's like, this is like going back, but like the gag where he's the main character is like telling the story of like him and the ex, and then it's like right after he tells the story, everybody kills himself. Like the guy who's like about to set himself on fire. And
He's just like waiting for him to like accept to go up to the cockpit so he doesn't have to light himself on fire.
Light himself on fire, yeah. And then there's a Japanese guy who like what is that called when they like
like the samurai,
seppuku,
you know,
stabbed himself in the stomach and killed himself. Damn.
The old lady who hangs herself.
It was like the comedy was a lot darker than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. This must have. I don't know if it was controversial.
Oh, for sure, it had to be controversial. But I think one of the charms about the movie is that there's jokes for everybody. There's every kind of joke. Like you could think of in this movie, from that darker humor to the lighter humor. It's all in there.
So we should definitely watch the sequel.
Megan, we gotta stay on task here.
We are. What do you mean?
You're talking about the sequel,
yes, the sequel is part of the thing.
We're talking about the original.
It's okay. We can talk about whatever. This is our podcast. We can do whatever we want.
You know, you do have a fair point there.
We've exhausted my show notes or my.
Yeah, I had like 3 notes in my book. I had no notes. I was like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on in this plot. There's no plot at all. So
yeah, you know, it's also a little hard to talk about because there's so many jokes.
Exactly.
You can't talk about every single joke. I feel like that.
Yeah, that defeats the purpose of it. I think that's the point. It's just like it's so overloaded with jokes, and that's like the point. There's no like, it's like the type of movie that you watch it for like holidays and stuff. Like every once in a while, just like to have like a feel good, funny movie. You know, so. And there's no like real doing our first podcast on this movie, like by the way, to the people listening to this, the reason we chose Airplane because this is our pilot movie.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was gonna let him figure it out.
Oh,
Megan, you spoiled that.
You can just
but
yes, Kat, you can just bleep out.
No, it's staying in.
Nah, just leave it in. Megan, you already let the cat out of the bag.
I'm so sorry. But yeah, no, so choosing this as our first podcast, there's no real in-depth kind of thing that we could go in with this movie about, because there's no depth to this movie. It's just comedy, just really great comedy after another, like one great skit after another. So.
Yeah. It's really just a good feel-good movie.
Comedy. Yeah, I definitely would recommend it. What would you guys give it out of like 5 stars? What would you guys give it? What would your letterbox rating be?
4.
4. That's what I give it.
Yeah, I would say 4 out of 5 or 8 out of 10. A solid like B rating.
A solid B plus rating. I would say it's one of those movies that will probably, maybe because this is my first time seeing it, but I feel like it's one of those movies that I would appreciate a lot more if I saw it again, and my rating for it would probably go up. Yeah, like, there's no way my rating for it would go down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that part of the reason why I give it a B is just because there's a lot of jokes that didn't land for me, that I just didn't get. They just weren't that funny to me.
Yeah.
So
same. I think it was like, but I think it's one of those things that you have to watch it with like an audience. Maybe like if we saw it in a theater with like a bunch of people, like it would be a lot funnier. But like because we watched it on our own, maybe it's not as like, you know what I mean? Because like usually like when you're watching things with people, like you usually have a bigger reaction when you hear other people have reactions. So
yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but it was great. I enjoyed it. I had a few chuckles. I had a good amount of chuckles. But yeah, it's definitely something worth watching with other people too. Yeah. Maybe in that, movie party format with props and everything. Party. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite kind of slapstick movie that's in that same sort of genre?
I don't know.
Because I feel like I would have to say it's like Christmas Vacation, which is probably my favorite Christmas movie, or at the very least one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that one.
I don't know. Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I don't really know that many slapstick comedy movies, unless they're a lot older, which is usually they are. But I
feel like there was a boom of these slapstick comedies in the 80s and 90s, because you had National Lampoons.
Yeah, that's true.
Chevy Chase. So
yeah. But I haven't seen those, so I should get on that though. But I think comedy for me is a very specific thing. Like there's a lot of comedy where I just don't find it funny. You know what I mean? I have to but I like things. I think for me, like Airplane, I liked it. I thought it was very good, but it's not really my type of comedy. I think I'm more like I think I like more of a plot with my comedy, you know, and just like having smart, like just like a lot of like really either really ridiculous comedy or really like witty comedy that just kind of is incorporated into the plot. I think that's more my thing, but I still
You want a movie with jokes, rather than a joke.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought this movie
jokes
would be.
that are our movie.
That's what I thought this movie would be, but it was kind of like a long skit, which is not like not knocking on it or anything. Not really my thing, but it's still a great movie, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate a comedy with a little bit more of a plot. I really like darker comedies too. So
for sure.
And like political satires, those are always great.
Oh yeah, that is true. I just like things that are super ridiculous, like this, like things that just go all out, like with what they're trying to do. I hate like comedy that just kind of like they do it, but they don't really go all the way. You know, I love when comedy just goes all out for what it's trying to do. So I love that.
Yeah.
Or comedy that's just really witty. Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of goes balls out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this movie is great anyways. I would definitely recommend it to people who haven't seen it. It's an iconic movie.
Yeah, it's definitely iconic. I don't know if I would classify it as like essential viewing, but it's still highly recommended from me.
Oh, for sure. It's technically considered the funniest movie of all time. I think that's what a lot of people say about it.
What?
Which
I don't know if it's the funniest of all time, but yes, it is very funny.
It's considered one of the funniest movies of all time. But it has to be, I think it's a very specific type of humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it's great. I think people know, like, we've said it many times that this movie is very good.
Yeah. Arguably too many times, because I think we drilled the point home already.
Yeah, I think now people are just like, I don't want to watch this movie anymore.
Yeah.
We've talked about it so much that they're just like, no, fuck this movie.
Well, they should have watched it before this podcast.
Yeah, sorry to all of you. We've just spoiled.
Well, I feel like it's in the realm of being old enough that spoilers don't matter.
There's no spoilers in this movie. Like
that
you
is
watch
true.
and you'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
You know, we
didn't
probably
talk about
spoiled a lot of
5% of the
punchlines,
jokes.
though.
Yeah, like some of the punchlines, but like some of them I already knew. Like the one I'd said before about him being nervous. I already knew that one.
I'd already seen the scene where the lady's freaking out, and then like there's a line of people waiting to like shake her and
just,
bring
like,
her out of
beat her
it.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think something like that wouldn't, like, if something like that was done now, people would be like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like,
yeah.
But I don't know. They're kind of like, whatever, let's just go for it.
Well, that's just kind of comedy evolving, and what the collective consciousness of society appreciates in comedy.
Yeah. I think comedy always has to evolve, though. Like, you can't just have one, you know what I mean? So
if
comedy evolves with the times, and comedy has to be relevant to whatever's happening in society. That's how things are funny, you know what I mean?
Comedy's very culture specific.
Exactly.
It is.
Like, comedy only works if you're very aware of, like, the culture, you know? The time that you're living in.
Yeah, I don't think you can have comedy that's not culturally aware.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't work out. It just wouldn't be funny. I don't know. It's just like comedy.
Yeah.
It's like, I think there was a thing that Jordan Peele said, because he's a comedian, but he also does horror, where it's like comedy and horror are two things. It's a very specific, like, where it's like you're trying to get it's like a very specific thing where you're trying to get a reaction out of somebody, and it has to be like, even horror is the same way, where horror works really well if it's relevant to the times, because of what people are afraid of, and it's the same with comedy. You have to really know what your audience wants, because you're trying to get a reaction out of them. Yeah,
it's got to be relatable.
Exactly. Like, they have to understand what the point you're trying to get is. So so comedy has to be very relevant to the times, which is why it always has to change. Which is why, like, this movie, some of it is dated, but I mean, I definitely get why it still works. But I think it works because mainly, like, slapstick will always kind of work. You know what I mean? Because physical comedy is just funny anyways. Yeah.
Good old Three Stooges comedy.
Yeah. So that's why you can watch, like, old, like, comedy, like really super old comedy, and that it's still great.
Like there's a reason you can tune into your local PBS station and watch Larry, Moe and Curly just having it out on their reruns, and you can still laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Marx Brothers not so much.
Nah.
Okay.
I don't have any other notes.
Any final additions?
Follow me on Letterboxd. No. I don't know. I got
Hold on, we're gonna do that in the intro.
I know. Yeah. For this movie,
The outro.
no, I would definitely just say it's a great movie. It's a classic. Definitely check it out. It's worth checking out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
It is worth checking out.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. There's no don't go in expecting any like crazy plot like to have like super in-depth discussions about it. It's just a fun movie to watch, especially with your friends. So
Yeah. Don't go in it with an analytical mindset.
Yeah,
don't go in with a notebook like we did.
Like we did.
And take notes.
Take like 3 notes and be like, oh well, that's it. So
yeah. There's a reason why I didn't even fill up a whole page on a mini notebook sheet. It's not even a full notebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Just go in prepared to unhook your brain.
Yeah.
And just,
and just
soak in the comedy.
Have a good time. Yeah.
Just let the movie happen.
Just don't think about it.
Just let it happen to you and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let it. I was gonna make an airplane joke, but
Yeah.
let
can
it
make
take
it.
you. I don't know.
Let it land right into your heart.
Yeah, land right into your heart. Let it take you to your destination.
Let it take you on a vacation.
Yeah. Got him.
Kajsa, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on the Grams. On Twitter, it's Kajsa _Kajsa_. So KAJSA _KAJSA _. Instagram, I am at NOTKAJSA, not Kajsa. So that's where you can find me.
Megan.
Hello. My letterbox plug. I'm putting that in now. So you can find me on Letterboxd. You can find me on Twitter. They are both the same, Megan at Megan Cinema, MEGAN Cinema. So, and then on Instagram it's just my name, MEGANHIA. That is me on Instagrams, and I think that is it. What about you, Kat?
I am on Twitter, Mastodon, and Letterboxd. You can find that information in the show notes or the video description.
Yeah, we'll have it in the
because
description box.
I'm not going to spell it out. It's too much.
If you really want to find us, you can find us down there.
You'll find us.
I'll have to go make a letterbox, and Kat will put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next week, episode number 1.
Oh, yes.
Well, it'll be episode number 1.
We're doing a double feature.
Doing a double feature. Super exciting.
Suspiria and Suspiria.
Yeah, original versus new. The original is one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the new one.
I have seen the new one. But we are going to do Suspiria versus Suspiria comparisons, things we like, things we don't like, stuff like that. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
We'll have a good time.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I love Suspiria.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll keep you up to date on the podcast Twitter at Rotting Eyes Pod, I believe.
Rotting Eyes Podcast.
Or is it Eyes Pod? We've got a couple.
It's one of those.
It'll be. You'll find it in our description.
It's on the screen. It's on the screen.
Yeah, check us for all our links. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and Tumblr, because we have one of those.
We do.
Oh shit! All right.
Because it's 2012 again.
Yes. Yeah, and connect with us there. Share us with your friends. We're always open to new listeners.
Yeah. And let us know what you like, what you dislike.
Yeah.
Let
Give
us
us
know
movie
what you think
suggestions.
about us in the comments. I feel like a real YouTuber now. That's crazy.
Oh, God.
Yeah. We're always going to be trying to grow and to learn and improve our podcast as we make these episodes. So any feedback is welcomed.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to trim down this outro. It's very long. It's like 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. We're done. All right.
We're done. We're done.
Have a good day.
We're going.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Everybody.
We love you.
Whatever
Wear
it is.
sunscreen, drink lots of water, eat healthy foods.
Wear your mask. Wear your mask.
Wear your mask.
Sleep
Wear your
9
mask.
hours a day. Stay inside. Wash your hands.
All right.
Wash your hands.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Done.